You know.
How about Joe Fan? You want to lead us off today?
Yeah, sure. Brian, kind of a random question. But any given game, like it's a typical game, how many at the end of it? How many plays would you say you called that were the perfect play? How many plays would you say you called that you want back after the fact? And how many would you say are in the middle where could work, depends on the execution?
That's a good question. I think it's probably more in where the middle, where you call it, it's got a chance, you're expecting something from the defense, you're not sure you're going to get that look. If you get that look, it's really good. If you don't get that look, not that it's not going to work, but it might not be as successful. Every once in a while, you call one that you feel really good about. I can't think of one off the top of my mind right now. We're just like, oh, that's definitely going to work, because there is obviously somebody out there trying to stop you, and you never know exactly how it's going to happen. But again, I think play calling's unique in the fact that you can call a really good play and it's the perfect look, the perfect defense, it's exactly what you want, but something happens. Either offensively we make a mistake or an error, or defensively they make a great play and it doesn't work. And then I know for a fact I've called a lot of really, really shitty plays and they end up working, and you're like, how did that work? Because somebody on our side made a terrific play. So I think that probably happens more times than not. You call a play and you're like, I don't feel great about this one, and then something happens because of execution. And that's what we talk a lot about. It's just the plays are plays. It's the players that have to go and execute those plays to make them work regardless of the look. And our guys have done a nice job of that this year.
Corbin.
Hey, Brian, I kind of touched on this with Russ earlier, but this is a football team that's struggled in the red zone, scoring touchdowns for several years. And then when you arrived, every year there's been improvement. This went from 12th to 5th, now being first with 100% efficiency. How much of that do you attribute to Russ and the skill guys just getting better? And how much of it is your comfort zone scheming and deploying certain personnel groupings in those situations?
Corbin, it was a big emphasis, always has been. I think it was back in like 2009 or 10. We were with the Jets, and we were like bottom third for sure, maybe like, I don't know, 27th, 28th. I think it was Sanchez's second year. First year, we weren't very good. And then the second year, we made a big emphasis of it, which helps. But we also added guys like Plaxico Burress and some guys that had really good red zone skills. There are certain players that have really good skill sets. But again, ultimately, I think it comes back down to just the execution. We emphasize it. We work it every day. There's a competitive period against our defense every day. Even on Wednesday and Thursday when the red zone stuff's not really in, we do it. So it's a big emphasis for us. But at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to we're comfortable down there. We've got the ability to run the ball. We know that. We've also got some things off the running game, and then there's concepts that we really like that we feel good about. And the thing that you notice, and most general fans would probably notice, is Russell's really good at doing what? Keeping plays alive. So when they do, in fact, cover everybody, he can move around and make plays. But I do remember specifically going from a low ranking in one of those years. It's been a while, but the next year we emphasized it, we went to first. So from that point on, we were always like, it was something that was important to us, that you emphasize it, you work it, you figure out who you want to be, and then you kind of go and you make it work.
Bob?
Yeah. Hey, Brian. How much easier is it to call plays when you got Tyler and DK sort of doing what they're doing, and just coming into this year, and you sort of knew for sure what you had in DK and all of that? I mean, just the way the passing game has evolved these first three games, just they're rolling it. Kind of how much easier does it make it when those guys are playing the way they are?
Well, I think it's easy because we have a lot of good players, Bob. I mean, those guys are two great ones, right? We know that, but when you got a running back like Chris Carson that can stretch the field and do some of the things that he did, the long touchdown pass against New England. You got a guy like Greg Olsen that catches a really contested tight pass against Atlanta. So it helps when you have good players. I think the familiarity of Russ with those guys and what we've been able to do in this shortened preparation in terms of no real offseason and all that stuff is the thing that probably jumps out that we're most pleased about. But, we're talented. But we work hard too. We practice hard. We work hard, and I think that certainly helps. But So it's a little bit of both. It's talent. It's those two guys. It's the other guys we got, but it's also the way these guys work. I mean, they put the time and effort in pre-practice, post-practice, during practice, and that makes it easy to call plays.
Thanks, Bob. Jackie?
Hey, Shotty. Russ, obviously the start that he's having. When you look at his performance, I mean, work ethic aside, what he does for the players, like in terms of coaching them up, what impresses you the most about his playing style on the field?
Probably a boring answer, but I would say the first thing when you asked the question, Jackie, was just his poise. He doesn't change. He really doesn't. I mean, he's playing great right now. But whether we're playing great or we're struggling, he's the same guy. When I talk to him on the headset or if I'm talking to him in years past face-to-face, he's the same guy. There's that optimistic, there's that self-confidence and belief that we're going to find a way. So rather than talk about his arm talent and things like that and the competitiveness, I really truly think one of his greatest gifts is his poise. Whether he's getting hit, early in games. He got hit a little bit last week early in the game. He was the same guy. I mean, he didn't check up at all, and I think that's the trait of a true field general and a guy that's completely in charge out there. And I've been on the other shoe where some guys it does affect him, and he's pretty unflappable when it comes to that stuff.
And then second, time for my weekly opposing defense question of the week.
Sure.
What stands out to you about Miami's defense?
They're a very committed man-to-man team. They play a bunch of man-to-man up in your face. They're going to challenge you. A lot of new faces. This is an opponent that we're kind of still learning. Some acquisitions from New England. Vanoy's a really good player. We'll see what happens with Jones, Byron Jones, Howard. But very committed man-to-man team, very well coached. Coach Flores and the staff do a terrific job. And then just really on some of the third down stuff, you see they do a nice job of being multiple with some of their blitz packages and what they do, pressure rushing, dropping guys out, things like that. So, not easy to prepare for. They do a really nice job, and the scheme fits their personnel. So it's been fun. Haven't watched them much the last couple of years, and watching them, they do a nice job.
Thank you.
Tim?
I kind of feel like I need to ask this through my hat now after the way Bob asked his.
Hey, I did notice that, Tim. He was really close, and I could kind of see you guys kind of laughing. I kind of thought, am I doing something wrong? And then I realized because I couldn't see Bob's face. I just saw his hat. So please do that. Please move forward and let me. There you go.
Like this and
Yes.
okay. Obviously, Russell's been great, but how do you assess the way the run game has been through 3 weeks? And I guess knowing that eventually there's going to be a game where maybe Russell isn't great, how important is sort of keeping the run game going for going forward? Because at some point someone might actually shut him down.
Yeah, well, our philosophy's not changed, Tim. I mean, it really hasn't. Russ is playing terrific. We're clicking on all cylinders in a lot of areas. I'm pleased with what we were able to do 2 weeks ago with our balance against New England. Last week we rushed for over 115, whatever it was. But again, some of the games that we're playing right now have kind of gone a little different way, but our philosophy hasn't changed. We're very comfortable and confident that we can do whatever we need to do to win the football game. I thought Chris ran really hard last week. We're trying to get Chris and Carlos both some touches. Travis is doing some stuff on third down as well, but I'm very confident with the guys that we have that at some point, again, we will have those big days rushing the football. I don't know if it'll be for 250 yards, but I really feel comfortable that when that time comes, which could be any week, that's going to happen. So we don't see ourselves as a run and shoot offense. That's not who we are. We're putting up some great numbers right now, but in the NFL, things change quickly. So we know balance is something that's important to us.
Ben?
Jody, for DK to overcome that fumble he had in the first half and to come back and get the game-winning touchdown for you guys, what did that show you about DK's mentality? And then also in your experience, how difficult is it for guys to usually overcome such a big mental lapse in games, in the same game, and to kind of redeem themselves in the next couple hours?
Yeah, it's a tremendous opportunity to teach, not just DK, teach all the players young and old. If you watch DK the week before on the one against Gilmore, he relaxed a little bit. The difference was Gilmore was on the ground. But, so you coach off it, you teach off it. We've talked about it. But like you addressed, Ben, the cool thing that happened was in the same game, and this doesn't happen all the time, right? In the same game, not only do we find a way to win the game as a team, but he makes a play that impacts really the outcome of the game, which is great. I've seen the script flipped a little bit sometimes, where sometimes you don't win that game and it's a loss, and then the mark is bigger. So it's cool to be able to teach off of something like that really could have been really drastic and terrible, and to teach off it with not only a win, but showing his mental fortitude and competitiveness to fight back from it. And again, I think that speaks a little bit to Russ. Like, you just look at the interaction between those two guys. That was cool. I could kind of, as we were talking, hearing him talk to those guys a little bit, that was cool. Just the leadership part of Russ saying, hey, I get it, it happened, but let's not ever let it happen again. So, we showed it. We didn't back away from it. DK knows it can't happen, and hopefully it'll help us all. You guys know we like to celebrate, we like to dance, we like to have a good time, but we're just going to make sure we get across the goal line before we do that in the future.
Matt Calkins.
Hey, Brian, you've touched on your receiving core, talked about Russ, talked about the running game. The line's playing well too. You've been around a long time, been in a lot of places. Do you ever feel like you've had this many weapons, this much to work with offensively before?
I'm really excited about just the unit in general, Matt. I really am. I love the way the offensive line's playing. I love the way they're battling. Last week was a really good challenge for us. You talk about, we talked early in the week heading into Dallas about the challenge of Griffin and Lawrence and Alden Smith and those guys. And again, those guys are going to make their plays, but our guys battled, man, and they fought, and that was really cool. I think top to bottom, this is a really talented offense. And, sometimes you're up there and you're calling plays and literally you're like, wow. This is a really special group, but I'd be crazy if I didn't talk about how close this group is as well. And that's real, and that's not coach speak. That's me telling you this group is really, really, really close-knit family. Guys like Luke Wilson that didn't even play in the game. Their energy, and you watch our sidelines, and we're into it, and again, up in the box, I see things that I don't normally see, but, like when the defense was out there, right, we had almost all the offensive guys were there going crazy, cheering the defense on. There's a special chemistry about this group, and, I've not necessarily been around many teams with this close of a bond that we have, and this unit offensively is very, very close, and they got each other's backs in good times and bad.
Johnny Boyle.
All right. Can you hear me okay? I had some audio problems earlier.
Gotcha.
All right, good. DK said Tyler Lockett is the most underrated receiver in the NFL on Twitter today. And just curious your thoughts when you came in, kind of what you thought of Tyler Lockett and then what you've seen out of him coaching in these last few years.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say? He's underrated? I don't know. Some of the numbers that he and Russ put up my first year here, I think it was the perfect passer rating, whatever that was. Cute story. I mean, I remember the first game against Denver back in 2018, I guess, and Tyler getting loose on a little kind of sprint out throwback pass and just making it look really easy, John. And he kind of leaned up and he kind of leaned the safety out and he crossed his face, and a little bit similar to the one he ran this past game where he got behind the Dallas secondary. But the thing that doesn't get talked about with Tyler is his football instincts, his FBI, football intelligence, whatever you want to call it. It is off the charts. So you take a extremely quick and dynamic athlete with great speed, and you touch him and you give him the gift of football intelligence, and he's a hard matchup. So again, I think he's playing at a high level, he, for a guy of his size, I haven't been around many guys of his size. T.Y. Hilton was around him in Indy, and but for a guy with his size, his ability to get open is very, very unique. And so, but in my mind, he's not underrated because I see him every day in practice. And I think if he's not one of the top 10 or 15 receivers in the NFL, then I might need to have to study some more tape because I think he is.
Brady?
Brian, at the risk of posing this question prematurely, this topic prematurely, have you ever heard Russell discuss MVP, and do you have an idea of what that would mean to him, winning that award?
No, he and I have never talked about it. I mean, he's just Russ is a guy that he's ultra competitive. He wants to win. All the accolades and everything that he gets, Brady, I mean, when he does the things he does and we celebrate in the locker room after the game, it's always giving credit to other people. And I think that's a sign of a great leader. He's never going to point at himself. There's a competitive fire that burns in him to be the best that's ever played the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he and I have never talked about the MVP. It's the farthest thing from our radar. We want to win football games. We want to beat the Miami Dolphins. We want to keep playing well. And if we do that stuff, then good things going to happen, not just for him, but for all of us, the entire team. But he's wired the right way. And so I think, again, is there a competitive fire to be great? Absolutely. Does it matter to him that he's the MVP of the league? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But I don't notice a guy that's any different day in and day out.
And with Carlos Hyde, we're not sure what Chris Carson's status is, but Carlos Hyde, and what do you think of his ability to step into that role if he has to?
Yeah, again, complete confidence. Carlos is a veteran. Carlos gets it. Carlos knows our system. Carlos is an extremely disciplined. I call him a slasher as a running back. He's really decisive, and he'll make a one cut and he'll feel it and just put his foot in the ground, and a really, really good football player. So that's the important part of playing guys, right? You roll guys through, you do all those things, and I think if Chris can't answer the call for some reason, we'll see. Carlos certainly will be ready, and again, that's the depth, right? That's the depth for us at running back. That's the depth for us at receiver. That's the depth for us at tight end. We got guys that when guys have to go in and play, we don't concern ourselves with missing a beat. We just go play football and expect that it's going to work out.
Coach, thank you.
Okay,
Coach Izzo
thanks,
on
guys.
deck.
Bob, work on your camera etiquette. Poor guy's muted.
How we doing? John Boyle, want to start us off?
Happy to. Yeah, Coach, just what was this like for you coming in the season and kind of your role changes at the last minute, or at least to us it was last minute, but taking over the special teams duties? Was it a pretty easy transition, having been part of that for a while?
Yeah, it's been a really smooth transition. Like I said, this is my third year here, and we have such a good core of guys, a lot of veterans that have just been really helpful in terms of making it a smooth transition. Really happy with how the guys have responded, and we're heading in the right direction.
Curtis?
What's been the biggest challenge for you in adapting to having the whole gig now? As Brian's no longer around here at the moment. Is there anything you've had to adapt and adjust to as you've kind of worked through it?
There's some little things that, there's a little bit more work to do. But as far as the approach, I've been taking it one day at a time. That's been my approach. Just focus on the next day, the next practice, and then not look too far ahead. And so, again, the guys, the players have been great. We got the three specialists that we have, Dixon, Myers, Ott, have all been, great. It helps when you have a strong group like that, as far as, gives you less things to worry about. And then the core teams guys that have really bought into their roles have really been out there, playing good ball. And so at the end of the day, we came into this season, after, looking at things in the offseason, with the number one goal of us to go out every week and play fast and physical. And up to this point, that's exactly what these guys are doing. So it's been really smooth as far as all that is concerned.
Bob Condotta?
Yeah, Larry, the way Michael Dixon has been kicking the ball so far this year, I mean, it seems like he's kind of, I guess, totally back to where he was as a rookie. And I don't know maybe if he ever really did struggle last year at all, but have you sensed any difference in him and kind of getting back to that, or just, kind of a thought on how he's kicked the ball so far this year?
Yeah, he's been outstanding. He's really controlled the game, pinning him inside the 10, multiple occasions, flipping the field for us. He's really in a groove right now. And it all starts with, again, the chemistry that he has, the trust he has with Ott, the snapper, the protection, giving him the time to be able to go out and operate. So it's a collective effort, but definitely he's been really impressive these first few weeks. And it's the Dixon that, we've seen here the last 3 years. He's a talented guy, and he's an outstanding guy to coach.
Greg Bell.
Hi, Larry. We talked to Bill Belichick a couple weeks ago when they were playing the Patriots, and you mentioned your long career there. And what motivated you to be a coach after playing so many years in the NFL?
I think it was a natural transition for me. When I was playing, I always kind of had, my eyes on, this would be the next step for me. And I took a year off in 2010 after my last year with the Jets. And, at that point, I was reaching out to some teams and to see if there was any opportunities. And fortunately, Tom Coughlin hired me with the Giants in 2011. And so it was something I always wanted to do as a player. I had a high amount of respect for the job that the coaches I played for did. I was fortunate enough to play for two of the best special teams coaches of all time, Mike Westhoff and Brad Seeley, for my entire career. And so just watching them work and see how they handled their units, I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, is that's something that I would like to do. And so fortunately I was given that opportunity in 2011, and now this is my 10th year coaching. It's crazy. It's gone really fast, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
And how did it come about you got on the Carroll staff?
Just they connected with me when I was available, and I came up here and we met. Brian reached out to me. We had, had connections through, when we play each other or at the combine, but I really didn't know him on a personal level until we came up here and met and sat down with Pete, and then the rest was history.
Curtis.
Larry, having done it yourself for so long, what do you think makes the makeup of a core special teams player, like a Nick Bellore that's been a part of this, and Nico Thorpe who's been here for several? What do you kind of have to be that kind of a mindset and excel in those sort of roles?
Well, I think, number one, you have to take pride in that role that you have. And those two guys that you mentioned, Bellore and Nico, have carved out a role for themselves, and they hold themselves up to a high level. And it's great leadership that we get from those two guys, because it translates to the younger guys, and they see the importance of this phase and how important special teams are, and they see how you can make a career out of it. And so seeing those two guys do that is awesome for us as a group. But for me, it's, you got to love the game. You got to play. You got to be able to play fast and cut it loose and just go out and love to go and run and hit people. To me, that was the most fun part of playing special teams, was going out, running down the field and hitting someone as hard as you can. I mean, what better job is there than that? And so if you enjoy doing that, you got a chance to be a pretty good special teams player. And then if you actually take pride in that role, you can actually carve out a nice career doing that.
Last one for Coach Izzo, Brady.
Hi, Coach. Nice talking with you. I'm just wondering, but what is your coaching style? What are the things that you emphasize? Do you pay much attention to analytics at all? Just how would you describe your style as a coach?
I look at it from, both perspectives of being a coach, and then I also try to put myself in the player's position and see things through their eyes as well. But the number one thing that's the most important thing to me is getting guys to play free and have a clear mind when they go out on the field and just cut it loose. And it's challenging as a coach, because I am an attention to details coach in terms of that. But like, my number one goal is to give these guys the information that they need to go out and execute their job at a high level, 100% full tilt, full time, without playing, cautious. because I don't believe in that. I want an aggressive mentality in terms of our units. And so for me as a coach, I'm always just trying to instill that in the player and emphasizing, the importance of just going out there and cutting it loose. And I think as a unit, the style of play that we've had here for a long time that Brian has instilled in terms of the Seahawks special team style of play, fast and physical, that translates to, good core special teams units. And so that's what hopefully we're going to see this year, throughout the rest of the year.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.